What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this, a silent arms race is unfolding? Not with missiles or armies, but with algorithms and machines that think faster than entire corporations. Here's the shocking fact. China just dropped not one, but 2 trillion parameter AI models in the same week. To put that in perspective, a trillion is a number so large it's hard to even picture. Imagine every single grain of sand on a beach, and then multiply that several times. That's the scale we're talking about, encoded into a digital brain designed to out-reason, out-code, and out-compete the best the United States has to offer. Why does this matter? Because for the last decade, America has dominated AI. OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, all household names in this field. But now, while Silicon Valley experiments with efficiency and smaller, cheaper models, China has slammed its foot on the gas pedal and gone the other way. Bigger, heavier, and faster. And here's the paradox. Many experts said this approach wouldn't work anymore. That scaling was slowing down. That more parameters didn't necessarily mean better intelligence. Yet China just proved the opposite, with benchmarks that crush models many thought untouchable. But before we dive into the numbers and the names, let me ask you this. If China really does master trillion parameter AI first, what does that mean for the balance of power? For jobs in America? For the future of military strategy? For the way your kids grow up learning in schools? This isn't just about gadgets or apps anymore. It's about the future of intelligence itself. And in the next few minutes, you're going to see why these releases may represent a turning point in history. A moment we might look back on and realize the world quietly shifted under our feet. Section 1. The giant awakens. Quen. Alibaba model. China's first move came from Alibaba's Quen team, and what they unveiled stunned the AI world. Quen 3 Max Preview, a model boasting over 1 trillion parameters. To grasp how massive that is, consider this. For months, analysts speculated that OpenAI's next big leap, GPT-5, might hover around 1 trillion parameters. But here's the twist. Most Western labs have been moving in the opposite direction, focusing on smaller, more efficient models to save on compute and reduce costs. So for Quen to go bigger than anyone else, and to succeed, is like watching someone bet the entire house and win. And the benchmarks? Brutal. On tests like Super GPQA, AI Me 25, Live Code Bench, Arena Hard V2, and Live Bench 2.0241125, Quen 3 Max didn't just perform, it outperformed. Beating Anthropic's Claude Opus, holding its own against DeepSeek v3.1, and even surpassing parts of Google's Gemini lineup. Think about that. Some of the strongest AI models in the world just got outpaced by a Chinese release that until last week, almost nobody outside the region was even talking about. But here's the part that should really get your attention. Quen 3 Max is already live. It's baked into Quen Chat, Alibaba's version of ChatGPT. It's integrated into developer tools like AnyCoder and available via Alibaba Cloud's API, meaning developers all over the world might already be using it without realizing they've left the Western ecosystem. Now there's a catch, and it's a big one. Unlike some of Quen's earlier releases, this model is not open source. Access requires payment, and the pricing system? Tiered, complex, and potentially punishing for enterprise users. Shorter prompts are affordable, but if you're running large-scale, high-context projects, the costs explode. One miscalculated workload could burn through a budget in days, and yet enterprises might not care. Why? Because the performance is that good. With a 262,000 plus token context window, context caching, and real-world speed, reported to be faster than ChatGPT, this thing doesn't just flex its muscles, it saves time, which in the corporate world equals money. Some developers on social media are already calling it the most exciting model they've tested in years. Others highlight its surprising reasoning abilities, even though it wasn't marketed as such. One researcher even noted it solved arithmetic puzzles that stumped rival models unless they had tool support. And here's the cliffhanger. Quen insiders are already teasing another release, possibly within weeks. If true, we're not just witnessing a leap forward, we're witnessing a relentless sprint. So what does that mean for everyone else trying to keep up? That's where Moonshot AI enters the picture. Section 2. Moonshot's Gambit. While Quen was stealing headlines, Another Chinese player stepped into the arena, Moonshot AI. This isn't a corporate giant like Alibaba. Moonshot is a startup, but a startup valued at $3.3 billion, with backing from titans like Tencent and Alibaba themselves, and their weapon of choice, the Kimi series of AI models. Back in July, their Kimi K2 model already cracked 1 trillion parameters. Unlike Quen, Moonshot made headlines by being open source, which earned it a surge of developer goodwill and propelled it up leaderboards in categories like coding and creative writing. In fact, it tied for 8th overall and 4th in coding specifically, an astonishing feat for such a young company. Now leaked details suggest their newest upgrade, internally referred to as Kimi K20905, is doubling down with a 256,000 token context window, putting it shoulder to shoulder with Quen 3 Max. But Moonshot isn't just scaling size, they're focusing on improved coding, less hallucination, and enhanced creative writing. In other words, they're positioning their model as not only powerful, but trustworthy. And unlike Quen, Moonshot has signaled a long-term commitment to open sourcing their models. Founder Yang Julin has gone on record, saying that progress should be shared with the wider community, not locked behind corporate walls. That philosophy might sound idealistic, but it could pay off. Developers and researchers are far more likely to adopt tools they can tinker with and adapt. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. Julin believes today's models, even those with hundreds of thousands of tokens, are not enough. He argues we'll need millions of tokens before AI can solve the truly hard problems: real-world planning, advanced scientific discovery, and long-term reasoning. And he's not wrong. Google's Gemini 2.5 is already pushing toward million-token windows. If Moonshot hits that milestone next, it could leapfrog not just Quen, but some Western giants as well. And while Quen focuses on enterprise adoption, Moonshot is winning hearts by being transparent and open. In an AI race where perception matters as much as performance, that may prove to be its greatest weapon. Section 3, the new arms race. So, where does this leave us? 2 trillion parameter titans. One corporate, one startup. Both unleashed by China within a single week. One is fast, powerful, and closed. The other is ambitious, creative, and open. Together, they signal something bigger than benchmarks, a geopolitical turning point. For decades, the United States has held the high ground in AI. But these trillion-parameter launches suggest that China isn't just catching up, it may be preparing to take the lead. Think about what that means. AI isn't just another tech trend, it's the backbone of future economies, militaries, and societies. Whoever leads in AI leads in innovation. They dictate the next wave of industries. They shape how billions of people live and work. And if China holds that position, the balance of power shifts in ways that go far beyond technology. But there's also a hidden cost. Models this big demand, enormous compute power, staggering amounts of data, and potentially unsustainable energy usage. Will these trillion-parameter systems prove stable, safe, and reliable? Or will scaling hit limits that force everyone back to efficiency? No one knows for sure. Here's what we do know. The global AI race has just entered a new phase. No more speculation about if China will compete. The question now is how fast can they outpace the rest of the world? So I'll leave you with this cliffhanger. If China can scale faster, cheaper, and more boldly than the US, how long before the center of AI gravity shifts permanently eastward? Will America innovate its way back? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a Chinese AI century?